Welcome to São Paulo, Brazil, a city that never stops moving, filled with energy, culture, and creativity. Amid the towering buildings of Avenida Paulista stands one of the world's most fascinating architectural landmarks, the São Paulo Museum of Art, or MASP. In this video, we'll explore its story, design, and impact from its visionary architect to the priceless artworks it holds inside. Let's dive into the world of MASP, the floating museum that redefined modern art in Brazil. The São Paulo Museum of Art, known locally as MASP, stands proudly on Avenida Paulista, one of the busiest and most famous avenues in Brazil. This avenue is the beating heart of São Paulo, a place where business, culture, and everyday life collide. Surrounded by skyscrapers, bustling traffic, and constant movement, MASP rises as a bold statement of creativity and modern design. Its location was no coincidence. When the museum was built, the idea was to bring art and culture into the very center of urban life, not hidden away in a quiet corner, but right where people live, work, and pass by every single day. It was meant to remind everyone that art is not distant or exclusive. It's part of everyday life. Every day, thousands of people walk along Avenida Paulista. Some are tourists coming to admire the museum's architecture, others are locals heading to work, and many are simply passing through the open space beneath the building, known as the free span. This large, open area beneath the museum is one of its most iconic features, a place where people gather, street artists perform, and public events come to life. At different times of day, the atmosphere changes. In the morning, the sun casts long shadows through the open space, highlighting the red beams that hold the museum above the ground. By afternoon, the area fills with street vendors, musicians, and visitors taking photos. At night, the museum glows with light, standing out against the skyline like a floating jewel. MASP is not just a building on a famous street, it's a living part of the city's rhythm. It connects São Paulo's modern identity with its artistic soul, making Avenida Paulista not only a center of commerce and business, but also a symbol of creativity and culture. Behind the bold design of the São Paulo Museum of Art stands an extraordinary woman, Lina Bobardi. Born in Italy in 1914, Lina was more than just an architect. She was a designer, an artist, a thinker, and above all, a visionary who believed that architecture should serve the people, not just impress them. Lina Bobardi moved to Brazil in the 1940s, bringing with her the modernist ideas that were shaping Europe at the time. But in Brazil, she found something new, a vibrant culture, full of energy, color, and diversity. She quickly fell in love with the country and decided to make it her home. Her work began to blend the precision of European modernism with the warmth and creativity of Brazilian life. When Lina was invited to design the new home for MASP, she saw it as more than a construction project. For her, this was a chance to create a symbol, a space that would reflect Brazil's growing confidence and its place in the modern world. She wanted the museum to be open and democratic, a place where everyone could experience art, not just the elite. At that time, the idea of a museum suspended above the ground was radical, even risky, but Lina was not afraid to challenge convention. She envisioned a structure that would appear to float in the air, supported only by two massive red beams. This daring design was both functional and deeply symbolic. It created a large, open space below, free for public gatherings, while the art above seemed to hover weightless. Lina Bobardi once said, "Architecture is about people. It is about life." Her design for MASP captured that belief perfectly. Every detail from the concrete structure to the glass panels was created to connect people, art, and the city around them. Today, more than 50 years after its opening, MASP still reflects Lina's vision. It stands as a monument not only to modern architecture, but to her enduring belief that art and design can bring people together and inspire change. One of the most striking and unforgettable things about the São Paulo Museum of Art is its bold, floating design. At first glance, the building looks as though it's suspended in mid-air, a massive block of glass and concrete hovering above the ground. It's a design that challenges gravity, tradition, and expectations. All at once, the museum's main body, the area where the art galleries are located, is supported by just two enormous red concrete beams that stretch across the top. These beams hold the entire structure in place, allowing for a completely open space underneath. This daring feature is called the free span, and it measures about 74 meters wide, making it one of the largest of its kind in the world when it was built. When Lina Bobardi designed the MASP, she wanted the building to be more than a container for art. She wanted it to be a work of art in itself, something that made people stop, look, and think. By raising the museum above the ground, she created not only a stunning architectural effect but also a public space below that could belong to everyone. The free span became a symbol of freedom and openness. It's a place where no walls separate people, where anyone can walk, gather, or simply pause to admire the city skyline. Over the years, this open area has hosted everything from art fairs and concerts to protests and community events. It's a place where the spirit of São Paulo, dynamic, diverse, and creative, comes alive. From a technical standpoint, This design was a huge challenge in the 1960s. Engineers had to find ways to support the massive weight of the museum's structure while keeping the space below completely clear of columns or supports. The use of reinforced concrete and the bright red beams was both a practical and an artistic choice, combining strength with striking visual power. Standing beneath MASP, you can truly feel the genius of its design. The museum seems to float effortlessly above you, its glass walls reflecting the changing light and movement of the city. It's a space that feels alive, a perfect balance between architecture, art, and the human experience. Lina Bo Barda's floating design wasn't just an architectural statement. It was a message, a bold declaration that art should not be hidden away behind walls, but elevated and visible to all. In São Paulo, a city always reaching higher, MASP's floating form became a symbol of aspiration, a reminder that creativity can lift us all. The freespan beneath the São Paulo Museum of Art isn't just a clever architectural feature, it's a powerful symbol. When Lina Bo Barda designed the museum, she wanted the open space below it to represent freedom, equality, and accessibility. For her, architecture was not about walls and barriers, but about creating spaces where people could meet, share, and express themselves. This open area, right under the floating structure, has become one of the most recognizable public spaces in São Paulo. Locals often refer to it simply as O Voo Livre, which means the free span in Portuguese. It's more than just an empty space, it's a stage for city life. Here, you can find street artists performing, musicians playing, and markets selling handmade crafts. On weekends, people gather to talk, relax, or take photos under the shadow of the great red beams. But the freespan has also been a place of protest and social expression. Throughout the decades, it has served as a gathering point for movements demanding justice, equality, and change. From political demonstrations to cultural celebrations, the space has witnessed the voice of the people echoing beneath the floating museum. That's exactly what Lina Bo Barda envisioned, a place where art and life meet, where the museum connects directly with the streets and the people who walk them. Symbolically, the freespan represents a kind of openness, an invitation. There are no gates or fences separating it from the avenue. Anyone can walk underneath, whether they plan to visit the galleries above or not. It's a democratic space, accessible to everyone, regardless of background or status. Architecturally, the freespan also allows the museum to breathe. The open air moves freely through the space, and the building feels lighter, more connected to the world around it. It's as if the museum itself refuses to be confined. It hovers above, free from the limitations of traditional design. The contrast is striking. Above, priceless works of art by masters like Van Gogh and Picasso. Below, the pulse of São Paulo, vibrant, loud, alive. Together, they form a perfect harmony between culture and community, between art and everyday life. The freespan is more than an architectural innovation. It's a philosophy made visible. It reflects the idea that art doesn't belong in isolation. It belongs among the people, open, accessible, and shared. Standing beneath the MASP, you don't just look up at a building. You stand in the center of a vision of freedom, unity, and connection that continues to inspire generations. Beyond its breathtaking architecture, the São Paulo Museum of Art MASP holds one of the most important and diverse art collections in Latin America. Inside the glass walls of this floating structure lies a treasure trove of creativity, history, and human expression that spans centuries and continents. The museum's collection was originally built through the passion and vision of its founder, Assis Chateaubriand, a Brazilian media magnate, and the museum's first director, Pietro Maria Bardi, who was also Lina Bo Barda's husband. Together, they dreamed of creating a world-class museum that could stand alongside those in Europe and the United States. They wanted Brazil and all of South America to have access to the same level of artistic excellence. Today, MASP's permanent collection includes over 11,000 works of art, covering painting, sculpture, photography, textiles, and even design pieces. It features some of the greatest names in Western art: Van Gogh, Renoir, Degas, Cézanne, Picasso, Rembrandt, Goya, and Modigliani, among many others. Each piece contributes to a vivid story of artistic evolution, from the Renaissance to modernism and beyond. But what truly sets MASP apart is the way it celebrates Brazilian art. Museum proudly showcases works by legendary Brazilian artists like Candido, Tarsila do Amaral, Anita Malfatti, and D, whose paintings captured the colors, struggles, and spirit of Brazilian life. Through these pieces, visitors can trace the development of Brazilian identity and creativity, side by side with global artistic movements. Walking through the museum is like taking a journey across time and culture. You might find yourself standing before a 17th-century European masterpiece, and just a few steps away, a bold modern work that speaks directly to the present. MASP's collection doesn't just display art, it tells stories of humanity, emotion, and change. Beyond its paintings and sculptures, MASP is also known for its temporary exhibitions, which explore contemporary issues and social themes. These exhibitions often highlight artists who challenge norms, question traditions, and represent voices that were once overlooked, including women, indigenous creators, and Afro-Brazilian artists. In doing so, the museum continues to evolve, reflecting the world's diversity and complexity. Inside MASP, every work of art feels alive. The museum's open design, natural light, and unique layout allow visitors to see the art from new angles and perspectives. Here, art isn't just something to look at, it's something to experience. For anyone who loves art, MASP is not just a destination, it's an encounter with creativity itself. Right in the heart of São Paulo. Inside the São Paulo Museum of Art, visitors immediately notice something extraordinary: the way the artworks are displayed. Unlike most museums, where paintings hang neatly on white walls, MASP does things differently. Here, each painting seems to float in space, mounted on a transparent sheet of glass supported by a solid concrete block. These are the museum's famous crystal easels, one of architect Lina Bo Bardi's most brilliant and poetic ideas. The concept behind the crystal easels was revolutionary. Lina wanted to break away from the traditional, elitist way of showing art, where visitors move quietly through rooms, staring at paintings framed by walls and labels. She envisioned a space that was open, democratic, and alive, where art could be approached freely from every angle. By mounting each painting on glass, she made it appear as though the artwork was floating in midair. Just like the building itself, each easel is made of a thick glass panel inserted into a rough concrete base. On the glass, a small label provides the artist's name and details. Nothing more. Simple, elegant, and direct. There are no barriers, no ropes, and no hierarchy. Visitors can walk around each piece, see the brushstrokes up close, and even view the back of the canvas, which reveals the artist's notes, framing, and history, parts of the artwork usually hidden from public view. This innovative display method completely transforms the museum experience. The open space, filled with light and transparency, allows art to exist freely, almost as if it's part of the air around you. As you walk through the galleries, the paintings seem to float alongside you, surrounded by reflections of the city outside, blending the art within the museum with the life beyond its glass walls. When MASP first opened in 1968, this display design shocked the art world. Some critics called it too modern, too radical. But over time, it became a defining feature of the museum, a symbol of Lina Bo Bardi's fearless creativity and her belief that art should belong to everyone. The crystal easels perfectly mirror the philosophy of the building itself. Both the museum and its displays reject the idea of walls, both literal and symbolic. They invite openness, curiosity, and equality. Today, these easels are recognized as an essential part of MASP's identity, admired by architects, artists, and visitors from around the world. They remind us that art doesn't need to be locked away or kept at a distance. It can be open, transparent, and close, something that connects directly with the people who come to see it. Standing among MASP's crystal easels is a powerful experience. The light shifts, the reflections change, and for a moment, you feel part of the artwork itself, surrounded by creativity, freedom, and vision. The São Paulo Museum of Art, or MASP, is much more than a building filled with paintings. It's a living, breathing cultural center. It was never meant to be a quiet, isolated place for only experts or scholars. From the very beginning, Lina Bo Bardi wanted the museum to be a space where art and everyday life could meet, a place that felt alive, inclusive, and connected to the people of São Paulo. Inside MASP, there's always something happening. The museum regularly hosts temporary exhibitions, lectures, film screenings, performances, and workshops that explore not just art, but also culture, identity, and social change. Each new exhibition brings fresh energy to the space, inviting visitors to see the world and themselves from new perspectives. Over the years, MASP has become known for its bold, thought-provoking curatorial approach. Its team often organizes exhibitions that challenge traditional narratives, giving voice to artists and communities who have been historically underrepresented. Recent shows have focused on Afro-Brazilian art, indigenous heritage, women artists, and issues like race, gender, and the environment. In this way, MASP continues to evolve, not just preserving history, but actively shaping contemporary conversations. The museum's educational programs also play a huge role in its mission. Through workshops, guided tours, and community projects, MASP brings art education to people of all ages and backgrounds. Students, teachers, and families are encouraged to explore creativity, not as something distant or intimidating, but as something deeply human and accessible. Beyond its walls, MASP has become a symbol of connection. The open area below the museum, the famous freespan, is constantly used for public events, from flea markets and book fairs to concerts and festivals. This is where the boundaries between the museum and the city disappear completely. Street vendors, performers, and visitors from all walks of life come together, creating a vibrant mix of art, culture, and community. In many ways, MASP represents the spirit of São Paulo itself, dynamic, diverse, and full of creativity. It reflects the rhythm of the city, where tradition and innovation coexist, and where art isn't confined to galleries but spills into the streets and everyday life. Lina Bobardi once said that a museum should be a living organism. At MASP, that vision comes to life every single day. The museum continues to grow, adapt, and inspire, not as a static monument, but as a constantly evolving dialogue between the past, the present, and the future. When you visit MASP, you don't just see art, you experience it. You become part of the ongoing story that connects creativity, community, and culture in one of the world's most remarkable museums. The São Paulo Museum of Art is more than an architectural landmark or a home for great artworks. It's a symbol of Brazil's cultural identity. From the moment it opened, MASP became a reflection of who Brazilians are and who they aspire to be: creative, diverse, and unafraid to innovate. In the mid-20th century, when MASP was first built, Brazil was undergoing a period of intense transformation. The country was modernizing rapidly, and cities like São Paulo were becoming global centers of business, art, and design. MASP represented a bold new vision of Brazil, one that embraced modernism, internationalism, and progress, while still honoring the country's unique traditions and local spirit. For many Brazilians, MASP is not just a museum, it's a point of pride. Its architecture and collection demonstrate that Brazil could produce art and design that stands shoulder to shoulder with the greatest cultural institutions in the world. It became a place where the country could tell its own story through art, not through imitation, but through original expression. Inside its galleries, MASP celebrates the beauty of both European masterpieces and Brazilian creativity. It's one of the few places where visitors can see works by Van Gogh or Picasso, alongside paintings by Brazilian icons like Tarsila do Amaral and Candido. This blend highlights an important message: Brazil's art is part of a global conversation, not separate from it. Beyond the artwork, MASP plays a key role in shaping public discourse about culture and identity. It continuously pushes boundaries, giving visibility to new and diverse voices, artists from indigenous communities, Afro-Brazilian creators, women, and LGBTQ+ perspectives. In doing so, the museum helps redefine what Brazilian art and culture truly represent in the modern world. For São Paulo, MASP is a cultural heartbeat. It draws students, families, artists, and tourists into a shared space of inspiration and discovery. It's a place where ideas cross paths, where a visitor might learn something not only about art, but about society, history, and themselves. On Avenida Paulista, MASP stands as a bold red statement amid glass towers and city traffic. It reminds everyone passing by that culture is not a luxury, it's a vital part of life. Art here is not confined to galleries or textbooks. It's woven into the rhythm of the city itself. Over the years, MASP has become a national treasure, recognized worldwide as a symbol of Brazil's artistic strength and innovation. But perhaps its greatest legacy lies in the way it continues to inspire pride and imagination among the people it serves. It tells every visitor, every student, every passerby that creativity belongs to them, that Brazil's story is still being written, and that art is one of its most powerful voices. Like every masterpiece, the São Paulo Museum of Art has faced the test of time. Since its opening in 1968, MASP has not only stood strong as a work of modern architecture, but has also gone through careful and loving restorations to preserve its beauty and integrity. Decades of exposure to the bustling city, weather, and millions of visitors naturally left their mark on the building. By the early 1990s, the museum needed attention, both to protect its structure and to restore its original vision. Engineers, architects, and historians came together to ensure that Lina Bobardi's design would remain exactly as she imagined: simple, bold, and honest. One of the first major restorations took place in the early 2000s, focusing on the museum's iconic red concrete beams and glass facade. Special care was taken to maintain the same materials Lina used: the raw concrete, the transparency, and the color that made MASP instantly recognizable. The goal wasn't to change the building, but to preserve its soul. Inside, restorations also included modernizing lighting, climate control, and security systems to protect the artworks housed within. The museum needed to meet international standards while still keeping its open, airy character. Balancing technology with authenticity was a delicate process, but it allowed MASP to welcome new generations of visitors safely and comfortably. Over time, preservation efforts extended beyond the physical building. The museum's collection, thousands of artworks from different eras, also required restoration and care. Teams of conservators continue to clean, repair, and study each piece, ensuring that future generations can experience the art in its full beauty and detail. In recent years, the museum has also embraced sustainability and accessibility as part of its preservation mission. MASP has worked to reduce energy consumption, improve accessibility for people with disabilities, and strengthen its role as an inclusive public space. These updates stay true to Lina Bo Barda's belief that architecture and art should serve everyone equally. Every restoration, every repair, every careful brushstroke of maintenance is an act of respect, not only for the building but for the vision it represents. MASP's preservation is not about keeping it frozen in time. It's about keeping it alive, responsive to the needs of the present while honoring the genius of the past. Today, as you walk beneath the towering red beams, it's hard to imagine that this museum has been standing for more than half a century. It feels timeless, modern, daring, and fresh, just as it did on the day it opened. And that's the beauty of MASP. Through dedication and care, it continues to float above Avenida Paulista, as if untouched by time, carrying Lina Bo Barda's vision into the future. Today, the São Paulo Museum of Art MASP stands not only as a building or a museum, but as a living symbol of vision, courage, and creativity. More than 50 years after its opening, it continues to inspire architects, artists, and dreamers around the world. What makes MASP truly timeless is not just its structure, but the ideas it represents. Lina Bo Barda's vision was never about creating a monument of concrete and glass. It was about creating a space for people, a space for connection, discovery, and freedom. Every part of the museum, from its floating design to its transparent displays, carries that same message. Art belongs to everyone. Generations of visitors have walked through MASP's open span, stood beneath its red beams, and looked up in wonder at the building that seems to defy gravity. Some come for the masterpieces, Van Gogh's vivid brushstrokes, Portinari scenes of Brazilian life, or Picasso's bold colors. Others come simply to stand beneath the open air, to feel the pulse of the city echoing through this modern temple of art. But no matter who they are or why they come, everyone who visits leaves with something more, a sense of possibility. MASP reminds us that creativity can lift us higher, that design can be both bold and human, and that art has the power to unite people across all boundaries. Lina Bo Barda's legacy lives not only in the walls of the museum, but in the values it continues to express: inclusivity, openness, and courage. Her design broke barriers in architecture, and her philosophy broke barriers in society. She showed that a museum doesn't have to be a place of silence and distance. It can be a space of life, dialogue, and community. Today, MASP is recognized as one of the most important modernist buildings in the world, studied in architecture schools and celebrated in cultural circles everywhere. Yet, for São Paulo, it's more personal. It's part of the city's identity, a constant reminder of what can be achieved when imagination and purpose come together. Standing beneath the floating museum, you feel that sense of wonder, that mix of strength and lightness, structure and freedom. It's more than just a place to see art. It's a place to feel inspired, to look at the world differently, and to believe in the power of creativity. The São Paulo Museum of Art is not frozen in the past. It's still alive, still growing, still inviting people to dream. It continues to float gracefully above Avenida Paulista, just as Lina Bo Barda imagined, suspended between earth and sky, between art and life, between what is and what could be.